Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. I'm your host, Paul Metza. There have been over a half a dozen books written about the history of the Minneapolis music scene over the last few years, but the one I was most excited to read was Lemon Jail, On the Road with the Replacements. I'm honored to have Bill Sullivan, the author of the book, with me in the studio tonight. Besides working with the Replacements, Bill has also managed tours for Soul Asylum, Yo La Tengo, Nico Case, The New Pornographers, Conno Oberst, and blues legend Jimmy Vaughn, just to name a few. Bill and I have also known each other for years and were also neighbors for a while in the early 1990s. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome my guest, Bill Sullivan. Bill, thanks for being here.
Paul, thanks for having me, man.
This was really an incredible book. I read it in I started about 2 a.m. the other night and couldn't put it down. I buzzed right through it. When did you get the idea to write the book?
The Minnesota tradition of the cold-ass winter. You know, you're laying there and the heat's not keeping up with the rattle of the windows. And
Right.
I'm like, I got to do something with my life. I got to have another idea. So I put a Kickstarter into the computer, you know. The only thing that was working in my apartment was the internet, you know. So, And then, you know, people latched onto it. You know, a bunch of amazing people started encouraging me and latching onto it and helping me. And
it's put out by the University of Minnesota Press, which is a great institution.
Really the most wonderful people. You know, the way they can nurture a 57-year-old baby like me. But yeah, it was amazing. They came to me and said, you know, Eric Anderson is the editor. He came to me at the Tap on 48th in Chicago, there,
Okay.
the Town Hall Tap. And he pitched a book that, you know, was more than I had expected to do. But he told me he was confident I could do it from what he had read that I gave him, that he had seen. So, yeah, I mean, and it's amazing. It was cool.
Well, it's really honest. It's a very honest book, and it's a really behind-the-scenes look at you know, rock and roll, a first-hand account. When did you start working with the Replacements? When did you start working with them, and when did you hear them for the first time?
Oh, that is good. So I moved back to Minneapolis from college in 80. And my friend Tom Carlson from junior high, I ran into him down I was into music at a punk show of some sort, and then he got me a job at the Walker Arts Center, and then he said, you have to come see this band. This is like the greatest band yet. And so it was like right around then I went to see them play, and it was immediate, you know, like immediate into your face.
Do you remember where the gig was?
It had to have been the Longhorn.
Okay.
Maybe remember when they had those Wednesday nights where the beer was free?
Mm-hmm.
Tiger Night, they called it, or something. And Lori Barbero was slinging the
Right.
suds to everybody at the.
I just got a beer for her about a month ago at the Hook and Ladder. She still do. I love that. I love Lori.
Yeah, I went to high school. Well, I didn't go to high school with Lori because I'm not sure Lori was in high school, but she was around when I was in high school.
Well, she was like you, Bill Sullivan. She is, there's so many really fascinating, colorful characters, especially in the music scene, as you well know, because you are one. But people that, you know, everybody knows the bands, but people like you and Lori Barbera, of course, Lori had her own band, Babes in Toyland, and Monty Wilkes, our good friend, who I want to talk about in a bit, one of the world's greatest sound men and greatest raconteurs I've ever known. The guy could tell a story and spin a yarn. So, but anyway, getting back to, so you saw the Replacements and you had immediate connection with them.
Yeah, I had been working. I also went to high school with this cat, Dale Goulet, who was limited warranty, right?
Right.
And he also worked for Peter Himmelman
Right.
And when Peter Himmelman was the best friends of like my best friend in high school, the guy who had the locker. When you go to high school the first day and there's a dude in the locker next to you.
Right.
And so you have this unbelievable. All of a sudden he's your pal.
Right.
You got no choice.
Gotta be right. No choice.
His name was Al Sussman, and he was Peter Himmelman's good buddy. So I had been listening to Peter.
Is that where Sussman Lawrence came from?
Right. So,
really?
Yeah, he named his band after this kid. So they actually hired me to be a roadie at that was the first roadie gigs I ever did. Dale was like, why don't you come and we got gigs in St. Cloud and whatnot. And the great thing is none of those guys drank, and so I would just take the case of beer home. I'd get like $50 in the case of beer.
There you go.
I'd just drive their stuff up in the truck and help set it up, tear it down, and all those guys went on to be something.
Oh yeah.
All those Sussman Lawrence guys.
Yeah.
And so
well, in limited warranty, ended up on Star Search.
They won the Star. They won the
Yeah.
Star Search. Yeah, it was
With Ed McMahon.
so Replacements and Limited Warranty did a gig at the Kaufman Grant, the hall
Together?
Yeah, it was a benefit to a organization that was trying to stop selective service from going into effect. I'm like, well, here, this is money well spent.
Right.
Good luck. But yeah, it was totally weird because they're all in their David Byrne suits,
Right. Right.
and like one of their moms had made for them or something like that, and we're like, we got like stained,
Right. Right.
Fucking-
Flannel shirts.
yeah, it's like, but yeah, hey,
Right.
a gig's a gig, right?
So how did you end up working for the Replacements?
I just started going to shows, and I was a fan, and I made myself omnipresent, and I sometimes helped if I could, and I just kept telling Paul that I knew how to be a tech, and I could tune guitars, I could do this, I could do that. None of it was true. No. And I don't know. I mean,
That's the beauty of rock and roll, though. There's no background checks.
man, you fake it till you make it. There's no background checks, man. You just like, and I literally, like, the first day I tried to string a guitar, I did it like backwards because I was, but I became competent at it. I was
Right.
not terrible my whole life. It didn't take long. It's not the rocket science that people would give it to.
Right.
But I mean, you learn what the artist wants, and you facilitate that.
Mhm.
As long as it's the way they want it, they're going to be happy.
Right.
And so he took me on. I suspect now. I think I said in the book, my brother Dave lived in Hoboken, and Jesperson had only arranged enough sleeping arrangements for like Paul, Tommy, and himself.
Right. Peter Jesperson was the manager.
the great manager of the Replacements. Yeah. And but I
He
suspect,
kind of discovered him too.
oh yeah, he just totally discovered me. Paul brought, I mean, all those. It's a fairy tale story about the they brought him the tape, and he sits in the bushes outside the old house on Bryant on Aldrich Avenue, whatever, and listens to them jamming in the basement.
Right.
It's Cameron Crowe.
Right. Right.
He couldn't write a better script than the Replacements in many ways, but Paul. They just said yes. I suspect it was because I was able to house Bob and Chris and myself and. At my brother's apartment.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I suspect that they looked at that Paul wanted me to come, I think, and I think Peter looked and said, "Oh, this will solve that housing problem we have for that week in New York." Because the whole tour was just to go to New York, and for Folk City, it was all about Music for Dozens, which Ira Kaplan and the New York rocker guys all booked this night, and all the great bands. Sonic Youth and whatnot, played this Wednesday night, whatever, Music for Dozens at Folk City, where they showcased the new music.
Well, and that was that I actually did my New York City debut there in June of '96, and but what was interesting about the Music for Dozens, and even the night I played, I think it might have been part of the New Music Seminar, was Folk City was the folk club on West 3rd, right across from the Blue Note. And then all of a sudden, 20 years later, I think Folk City actually opened in 61 at that location.
61.
But then you have Sonic Youth, the Replacements,
Yeah.
and you guys had Marshall Stacks, right?
Yeah, it was the Del Lords.
Yeah.
The Del Fuegos,
Right.
who I loved. I mean, I was a big
Right.
fan of the Del Fuegos.
Too bad they didn't have Del Shannon on, too.
It was the Del Mats.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, I try to tell the story, and I know everyone's told this story kind of ad nauseum. It's sort of a famous gig, but yeah, we had like the Marshall Stacks and all that, and these other bands, Del Fuegos and Del Lords, they were cool dudes, but they knew what they were doing. Like they were
Right.
trying to get popular,
Right.
where we were not.
Right.
And,
Right.
So, and what
That
happened?
kind of takes the pressure off, though, doesn't it?
You tell yourself that, yeah. So what happened was that, Carton, my buddy from junior high, who was the other roadie, he was staying with his girlfriend's sister in Manhattan, and they had a parking space for the gear in the van. Because, as you know, everyone's trying to steal your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
Every minute,
Right.
wherever you are,
Right.
someone is thinking of stealing your stuff, right?
Right.
So anyway, he went into one of these ramps in New York, and it turns out these parking, it's easy enough, but getting out sometimes
Right.
is screwed up because they got cars parked freaking everywhere.
Yeah, right.
And they got the George Costanza with the keys, So
Right.
we were like way late too,
Right.
And like everybody was already bailing on the idea. Like the powers that be were already like, "Hey, Paul, you'll just play acoustic." Paul, well, you
Right.
just play acoustic, and Paul was like, "I am not." He's like,
Right.
Replacements are playing at Folk City, and nothing else is happening.
Right. Bill Sullivan, author of Lemon Jail on the Road with the Replacements on Wall of Power Radio all night tonight.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been telling you about my friends at Snap Construction, who are arguably the most well-reviewed exterior construction company in the metro. Don't just take my word for it. Take a look at all their reviews online. Winter is the most cost-effective time of the year to complete your construction project. A majority of Minnesotans choose to have their work completed on their home in the summer when they should be enjoying the weather. As a result, the demand for labor in the summer is much higher. The most cost-effective way to improve or restore your home is in the winter due to the lower demand. Right now, Snap Construction is offering an additional 30% off of labor to the AM 950 listeners on your next construction project. Call 612-333-SNAP and mention AM 950 for an additional 30% off. As always, Snap Construction stands by their work with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate by calling 612-333-SNAP or find them online at snapconstruction.com. Financing options available.
Native Roots Radio is proud to announce we've added an extra hour.
Yeah, Chuchke, 1 hour goes by too fast.
That's right, Uncle Curtis.
I'll have extra time to share important information about our secret animals.
And report national and native news from all over the country and Canada.
This new hour is sponsored by Robbins Kaplan LLP, dedicated to redefining excellence for high-stakes litigation representation in Indian country.
We are awake.
Victor's 1959 Cafe in South Minneapolis is a locally owned and operated restaurant offering traditional Cuban food. Open for breakfast and lunch daily with dinner Tuesday through Saturday. For night shift workers, Victor's even has both a morning and evening happy hour, and Victor's now accepts dinner reservations too. Stop in and try some delicious authentic Cuban cuisine like ropa vieja and seafood paella. Make your reservation and learn more at victors1959cafe.com. Victor's 1959 Cafe, revolutionary Cuban cooking.
This is New Beginnings, hosted by award-winning broadcaster and speaker Freddie Bell.
Freddie, this generation of the baby boomers, people are living longer, so the baby boomers are taking care of elderly parents.
Let's talk about your health, and specifically, let's talk about Medicare. Our show features the concerns of America's 78 million baby boomers in employment, finance, health and nutrition, and even entertainment.
Catch New Beginnings with Freddie Bell, Saturdays at 11 on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
The #1 source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metsa. Our conversation with Bill Sullivan, roadie for the Replacements and author of Lemon Jail, continues. He picks up from the first segment where he was talking about the Replacements' first gig at Folk City in Greenwich Village.
And, it showed up and they were loud and everybody hated it. It was...
Well, it wasn't that big of a room.
No, it was very small.
Yeah.
It was very small. And you really didn't get a sound check there anyway.
Right.
I mean, but with just the throw and go, it was kind of it was uncomfortable for everyone.
You know what, Bill? I bet you ran into him over the years, but the night I played, I went there the night before because I was like to scope out the gig, if I can, the night before I play. So I went there, and I think Suzanne Vega was playing, but for some reason he knew who I was. He was the sound guy, and he'd also worked the door, was Pat Denizio.
Yes.
And then the Smithereens, about a year later, really started to blow up.
Who we lost again this year.
Yeah, Pat was a great guy. We became great friends.
Yeah, well, everybody you met back then was somebody eventually, right. And it's unbelievable. I mean, people all the time, like I work festivals for this promoter that does like Lollapalooza and ACL and stuff like that. And my friend got me the gig, and I was pretty innocuous gig. I liked it. It was high paying.
Right.
And no one really, I made more money than I did at tour managing, and I just lived in a hotel off the festival site, and it was kind of so it's a good gig. I mean, you work your ass off. Right. It's a good gig. And eventually they started like going, the owner of the production company was like, why does everybody have to come and talk to you when they come backstage? And I'm like, well, I know that guy. I know those guys from,
Right.
Because everybody became somebody.
Right.
All that crew of people that was putting on 80s music around the world. I mean,
it's really incredible. Well, I remember, and you wrote about it in your book, Lemon Jail, the show at Navy Island with REM, and it was the Replacements, REM, and who else was
Let's
on
Active.
Yeah. Mitch Easter, yeah.
Yeah, the Mitch Easter.
I remember Michael Stipe came on. It was like freaking 90 degrees. It was like July, and he came on with like a parka and a sweater. And it was like, what the hell are you thinking?
He was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me on the REM tour. Is like I had this like Carhartt kind of shirt from a thrift store, and the sleeve got caught on something and got ripped. So I just pulled like the sleeve off, and threw it away and kept doing the gig. And like after the show, Michael Stipe goes, "I really like your shirt." So I like wore that shirt for like a month.
So when you've got some great stories, Bill Sullivan, in your book Lemon Jail about the gigs in New York City.
Yeah.
So tell us about you played Danceteria?
Danceteria.
Where else?
Well, CBGB's quite a bit. The thing about the stories with like CBGB's is like I would have had to write 10 CBGB stories to somehow put everything that's happened in there.
Right.
So I just sort of, like for CBGB's and the Rat and some of these places, it's kind of just all the events sort of.
Right.
You know what I mean? I basically followed one storyline, but I kind of tried to throw in some of the other things that happened. And I couldn't even touch. I was talking to Chris Mars at a coffee shop, and I was telling him about the book, and I was telling him about the CBGB's problem, and he goes, "Oh, like that time the guy showed up, the guy came in with the shotgun," and I was like, "Well, see now that story."
Right.
I was like, I don't have a story for that because I remember the guy came, he had the shotgun under his coat, like mobster film.
Right.
And he turns and he goes in the club, but we were like loading out on the Bowery at 3 a.m. There was junkies, thieves, animals. I mean, like it was a zombie
Isn't that
movie.
a Cher song?
Yeah. My favorite review of that movie Escape from New York, Kurt Russell.
Oh, I loved that.
Great movie.
Yeah.
My favorite review was this guy's like, I went to see this movie to review it, and my friend turned to me halfway through and said, "This is supposed to be the future, right?"
Right. It's happening right now.
Really kind of hard to...
Yeah, right.
So, anyway, so I don't know what happened really with the shotgun. I know the guy, I saw the guy, he was going in, he had the shotgun clearly under his coat.
Right. Something
wrong was going to happen. But you just try, you can't leave an amp for a second.
Right.
It's gone. You had to get everything.
Right.
And we're like, get in the van because let's go somewhere where there's no shotguns. Because, so I never could make that a story. I just never, and my editor, Eric, was like, this is like a good one. He goes, you got to make it a better story, though. And I never, sometimes I just had to bail on some of these stories and take them out, you know, or try to mix them in, like I said.
When you were doing the book, Bill, did you, like you said, you chatted with Chris Morris, did you contact a lot of the other people you rubbed shoulders with over the years
I
to
really
refresh your memory?
I really didn't unless it just happened.
Right.
And mostly then when I, with Mike Bosley, who was one of our sound guys for... he was in the Brunettes with Mark Olson. Remember Mark Olson's earliest band?
Yeah.
And Bosley was like the first professional sound man we had. We didn't even have one but he only did a short tour, and then Lloyd Cole hired him away. But he did it was pretty pivotal, the tour he did, because it was the West Coast and the South, really when the band was breaking up. So it was good that he was there and stuff like that. And he was recanting some stories to me of shows he was there. I go, yeah, well, that story's in the book, but you're not really in it, man. I mean,
right.
Well, you want to be in the stories, man. You got to go write a book. You know? I was like, no offense, but I don't know what you were thinking or seeing at the time. You know? I'm just writing about what I was thinking and seeing at the time. And if you happen to be in the periphery, I'm not in the business of promoting your brand, but
right. Well, you were there damn near at the genesis of the Replacements.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's the really early stuff, but
But what was it about?
Anybody who says they were at the Regina High School gig, is a liar.
Right.
There's no way you went to a girls' high school for their dance, and watched the Replacements.
Right.
There's no way.
Right.
Screw you. You weren't there.
Right. Well, what really attracted you about the band?
That was immediate. They were immediate, man. Actually, I remember reading an early review of them, calling them eclectic, and I thought they misspelled electric. Really, I was like, that was my high school education. But I really think on that first record, Sorry Ma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody now everybody talks about how much they hate Trump. And I'm like, wow, bold. Get out on the ledge with that one, man.
Right.
Really? You think Trump's a dick?
Right.
Tell me more.
Right.
It was Reagan then. Everybody hated Reagan and all this, and Replacements were raised in the city, ready to run, cruise the lake, fun.
Right.
Buy a car, maybe rent a home. It was like this was me. This is me. I was like, this is cool. I want to rent a home. I want to buy a car. I want to cruise the lake. I want to have fun.
Right.
This is more, reasonable to me, more immediate.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could tell. I mean, I don't know if I have an innate sense. I would never say that but I don't know, man. When when you can tell, when you see it.
With Bill Sullivan, Replacements roadie and author of Lemon Jail, on the Wall of Power Radio Hour after these messages.
Well, a person can work up a mean thirst after a hard day of nothing much at all. The summer's past, it's too late to cut the grass.
Hello. If your taxes from years past are talking to you from the back of that drawer in your desk, it might be about time you answered the call by making a call to Moe's Tax Service in St. Paul.
Time to come out now.
They've been preparing tax returns and creating advisory-based relationships with their clients since 1971.
Kind of stuffy in here.
Problems with the IRS don't go away by ignoring them. Call Moe's Tax Service. That's M-O-H-S. They're on Ford Parkway in St. Paul. 612-721-2026. 721-2026.
Hi, Gregory Rich, founder and chief at Habitation Furnishing and Design, and now I'd like to invite you to kill your Sunday evenings with me right here on AM 950 with Drinkin' the Style. It's a 1-hour-long conversation about interior design, art, architecture, and pretty much anything else, visual and aesthetic, all while enjoying some booze handcrafted by our friends at Gianni's Steakhouse in downtown Wayzata. Can you think of a better way to spend Sunday evenings? Drinkin' the Style, Sundays, 5 p.m.
Seward Co-op, serving the community for nearly 45 years, invites you to shop their 2 convenient locations, both offering the strong commitment to local producers and healthy foods you've come to expect. Seward focuses on locally grown and raised products, fair trade, and environmental sustainability. Shop their selection of meats, artisan cheeses, and house-made baked goods. Find Seward at 2823 East Franklin Avenue or the Friendship Store on 38th Street and 3rd Avenue in Minneapolis. More at seward.coop.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
I'm Candy Brothel, publisher of the Twin Cities edition of Natural Awakenings magazine and host of Green Tea Conversations, a news show for people who are on a journey to take responsibility for their health and play a more active role in their family's well-being. Join me every Sunday at 10 a.m. as I interview local experts who share the latest in natural holistic approaches in a fun and informative way. So grab a cup of tea and join the conversation as we awaken to natural health. Visit us at naturaltwincities.com.
Hi, Matt McNeil for Rudy Luther Toyota. Let me tell you about the best parts of buying a vehicle with Rudy Luther. First, their staff is wonderful, friendly, and always ready to help. Another is the Luther Advantage Card. With every new and used vehicle purchase, you'll get 3 years of 10 cents off per gallon of gas at holiday station stores, as well as discounted car washes. The Luther Advantage Card keeps you happy in your Rudy Luther vehicle. Find out more at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Sam Turnberg. Tonight's cloudy with a low around 36. Tomorrow, chance of rain with a high near 49. Monday, sunny with a high near 42. Tuesday, partly sunny with a high near 49. And Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near 61. The Eat Local Minnesota Restaurant of the Week is Victor's 1959 Cafe. Offering traditional Cuban recipes in a relaxed, casual, and festive Cuban environment. Visit them at 3756 Grand Avenue in South Minneapolis. More details at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Bar. This is your host, Paul Metza. We are speaking with Bill Sullivan, legendary Replacements roadie and author of Lemon Jail on the Road with Replacements. I asked Bill if he had an ear for talent.
I don't know if I have an innate sense. I would never say that but I don't know, man. When you can tell, when you see it. I don't know, like when Conor Oberst came to my club.
The 400.
Yeah, the 400. I hired this band, Lullaby for the Working Class from Omaha, which was Mike Mogus, Ted Stevens, Tiffany, a lot of Bright Eyes, Good Life. All of them went on to have, and Mike Mogus is the great producer of all these bands.
Mm-hmm.
And I had seen them on tour on a night off a couple times and say, I want to have this band. But, they're not going to draw a lot of people.
Right.
And so I got to get them up from Omaha. I got to make this happen. It's not going to be Blockbuster. Like, can we bring the opening act? I'm like, sure. So they bring Conor Oberst up. And I have no idea who the hell Conor Oberst is, He sits down at a clavinet, whatever it was, electric piano. And he's basically got, The Good Life backing him up. And he just opens his mouth. And I was just like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
I mean, right away. I mean, there's no distinction between, there's a lot of talented people and there's a lot of good music and stuff like that, but there's some people that just, Paul Westerberg, of course, is just one of those guys, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know it then, but what I was hearing.
Right. You could feel it.
Well, yeah, what everybody's talking about now,
Yeah.
I mean, it was fun, man. I mean, I as a kid, I don't know. I'm not that smart, so I mean, I just assumed that that's what life was like.
Right.
I immediately meet a great rock band. I get to go on, we're going to go on tour. We're going to be big stars.
Well, what I really enjoyed about your book, Bill, I enjoyed all of it, really. But, man, you really put the reader in the van next, in the seat in the van next to you, because you guys really worked your ass off.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not child's play.
No.
Playing these gigs, sleeping 4 to a room, if you got a room, shitty food, ill-attended gigs at times, hostile audiences, but yet you maintain, you kept it going.
You keep it with good humor, man. You have to just you have to be above the fray, right?
Right.
I mean, it is. Mars. When Chris Mars read the book, he had a couple of notes. He said, "I have a couple of notes, if you could."
Right.
He's very generous about it. Yeah, I go, "Oh yeah, no problem." He goes, "First one," and he goes, "The stink bomb story. You say it was my idea, but it was really Bob and my idea."
Right.
And I was like, well, that's kind of a big story. I have to kind of rewrite the whole thing to make it Bob's idea too. So I
tell the story to the audience.
The stink bomb story.
Yeah.
That's a seller of the book, man. No, it's hard to tell it because it's long. But Mars and Bob bought the Morning Breeze. Remember the joke shops, magic shops?
Yeah.
They were every town had like a joke shop or a magic.
Right.
It's like 3-card Monte guys. You never see them anymore.
Right.
You never see these joke shops.
Right.
But I guess you could buy your jokes. You buy your fake vomit online now.
Right.
So they bought the Morning Breeze capsules that supposed to smell like farts.
Right.
But it really smells like the stuff they put in the gas line to make you know that you had gas.
Right. Like rotten eggs.
Yeah, like rotten eggs. So they're like, at the Rock, we were at the Roxy in L.A. I mean, kind of a big gig.
Yeah, I guess so.
And Mars like, I want you to roll these out under the skankers during the show. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So he gave them to me, and I was like, really? And so through the entire show, Mars and Bob, I do remember now after Mars reminded me that Bob, they kept looking at me the whole show. And I was like, no. And then Bob Forrest of Thelonious Monster, like, sticks his head through the curtain that I was behind tuning in the guitars, literally like Topo Gigio or something. He's like, hey, need anything? I was like, Bob, I want you to roll these out under the audience. And he's like, okay. And about 5 minutes later, the place just becomes unbreathable. I mean, it's just, and people are running for the exits, and Westerberg looks at Bob and Chris, and they're laughing, and he's just pissed.
Right.
And he looks at me, and I'm just like trying to pretend like I got nothing to do with it, like stand there, and he just looks, and then Bob Forrest sticks his head through the curtain again. Is that good? And he looks, and he sees Westerberg, and he goes, whoops. He disappears. It was, but nowadays, something like that would be a very bad thing to do.
Yeah,
I mean, you'd be on a post office wall for doing that crap.
Well, and not only were you a roadie, but you made quite a few appearances singing tunes, Alice Cooper stuff.
Alice Cooper, yeah. Yeah, Paul liked me to get up stage and sing. Like, I think it really just started because everything was always breaking.
Right.
So I was constantly out there crawling around trying to get something to work, which I admittedly I was not a great roadie. I was not a technical mind in many ways, but a lot of it is you go with the basic thing. Is the guitar cable not working?
Right.
You start at the most basic.
Right.
And then you work your way up to a serious overall of any kind of amplifier.
Right.
It's usually, but as a musician, it's usually the most basic thing. And sometimes you just take your bandana, like even last night, the band.
And it's usually the cheapest thing.
Yeah.
You can have $2,500 worth of guitars and amps, and it's the freaking 99-cent 9-volt.
Yeah,
That's
Oh, the 9 volts
jack-
batteries are like the...
Yeah, jacking it all up.
Batteries are like they're it's unbelievable how many batteries you got to have on hand at all freaking times. It's like,
Right.
But the replacements didn't really use pedals. I mean, I know musicians will probably mock me anything I say about. But they Paul and Bob could make those sounds with sheer volume,
right?
And power. I mean, the power, the way those guys held guitars and
Right.
turned them. You know what I mean? They never really had any pedals until Slim, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Slim had the Frankenstein of pedal.
Right,
boards,
Slim Dunlap,
Some
yeah.
like Slim Dunlap. It's like this creation.
Right.
I studied it every day. He would come in and put it together, and he was like, "I don't need. Don't help me with this, Bill. This is my.
Please don't help me.
Please don't help me." So I watched him every day without him knowing it. Basically, watched him. And then finally, like halfway through that first tour, he came in and I had it all set up, and he looks at it, looks around, takes off his jean jacket like he always did, hangs it on the amp, and looks at it again. He looks around and he walks over and he takes like one cable and pulls it out and puts it in a different thing. And then he kind of looks over and he goes, "You were close." I was like, "Screw you, man. That cable can go in either one of those. It's the same box. Either one of those do the same thing."
That's fantastic. Well, Bob Stinson, he and I just got to be buddies because we had our days off, musicians, and we'd hang out. We'd keep bumping into each other in guitar stores and record stores.
Yeah.
And he was such, everybody, we all know the Bob stories and the dark stories, but he could be a really sweet guy.
Oh, he was
too.
a very sweet man. He was a very sweet man.
And gentle.
Very gentle, yeah. I don't know Bob. He was, and he really wanted to be a rock star. He was really a catalyst of pushing that band forward. I remember Mars telling me that he met Bob by he was in his house in his bedroom playing guitar, and several days in a row there was this tow-headed kid sitting down on the street on his bicycle listening to him play guitar. So eventually he ran into this kid and talked to him, and it was Bob, and said, "I want you to come over, and jam,
Mm-hmm.
and like just like with Tommy, Bob, like he shoved sticks in Chris' hand,
Right.
Shoved a bass into Tommy's
Right.
hand, and this is what's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
And he had it all planned out,
Right.
and he was a rock star, man.
Yeah, he certainly
straight
was.
up, man. He was, sometimes they burn really brightly in really weird ways, and
I remember, in fact, the opening of my book, Blue Guitar Highway, it opens with the last time I saw Bob at Garage Door at 26th and Nicollet. And we always had nice little conversations. We'd trade guitars. We're in the guitar store and talk about this and that. And we didn't, talk a lot. We didn't need to because we just kind of understood where we were at. But we always enjoyed each other's company. And so he said, "Well, what have you been up to?" And I said, "Well, it was 1992. I said, "I just got back from Nashville." I said, "I went down there. I thought I was going to make a good folk record, but I think I made a pretty great rock and roll record, actually, Bob." And I'll never forget, man, he crosses his arms like this, and he looks out onto the street, kind of like, Buddha, and he goes, "Just goes to show you, Elvis was right all along."
he was the king
Yeah.
of the misnomer line. What do you call it? He used to say, like I said, I was like pissed off. I was like, "I'm fucking tired of this. I'm going home. I'm off this damn tour." And Bob's like, "Bill, what do you think would have happened if the Who's roadies quit?"
Yeah,
I
right.
was like, "I don't freaking know, Bob. I want a sandwich.
Yeah.
I'm hungry."
But yet it's a great point, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, God bless him. Were you, what was happening? Like, the Replacements, of course, were beloved in Minneapolis as well as Husker Du. And there's always that thing about, you either like Husker Du or the Replacements. And I dug them both. Husker Du was a little more reliable in terms of going, they were a well-oiled machine where occasionally you'd go to see the Replacements and it would just end up to be kind of a drunken free-for-all, which was kind of the beauty of it. But they started to really, was it the Village Voice cover, or when did the Replacements really start to get onto the national consciousness?
But yeah, the Village Voice article was for sure the R.J. Smith.
Okay.
A good guy, good writer. He traveled with the band. I think it really blew them up in Minneapolis too. I mean, there was, like you said, there was the Husker fans, and there was kind of two things. They called the Husker fans had a nickname, right? Didn't they have a? They were called like I can't remember what it was, but the Replacements fans were more of a. They were there, but they weren't always admitting it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But you always saw the same people, but they didn't. You know, it was too hard to argue with people about whether it was a good band or not, because some people didn't think so.
Right.
But so that Village Voice, when R.J. Smith wrote that, you know, and it was also it was similar to the Bob Muir book in sort of, it was going down with the Replacements, and it was a lot about, you know, just all the fumbling that the band fumbling into stardom, you know, stumbling into success, falling back assward in some way.
Right. More with Bill Sullivan and his great new book, Lemon Jail, On the Road with the Replacements, on the Wall of Power Radio Hour, after these messages.
Rudy Luther Toyota has a great selection of new vehicles, but Rudy Luther is one of the top 10 largest volume Toyota certified pre-owned vehicle dealers in the country. They have the best cars, an amazing selection, and unbelievable pricing. With Rudy Luther Toyota fair value pricing, you'll always get an unbeatable price on every vehicle. They'll give you that fair value price up front with no hassle. Online at Rudy Luther Toyota, or stop by Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Food nourishes us. We need food to live. But how are we nourishing the food system? Well, actually, we're throwing a bunch of chemicals, and we're making the dirt dead, and then we're adding nitrates to the water, and we're causing dead zones in the ocean. Oh, and we're also causing climate change. We do that with every bite we eat. But we can create something different. We can switch to a regenerative system. And that's what we talk about every week on Food Freedom Radio. So tune to Food Freedom Radio Saturdays at 8 a.m. or anytime via podcast. Food Freedom Radio on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Crooner's Lounge and Supper Club is delighted to offer its spacious facilities for your private function. From weddings, retirement parties, business dinners, or any special occasion, Crooner's combines a dedicated full-service special events team, an award-winning chef, and a beautiful lakeside ambiance to make your event a resounding success. Visit croonersloungemn.com to learn more about their private dining options, or call 763-571-9020 to get a quote for your next event today.
The number one source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
Save an extra 7.5% during Warner Stellian's free tax rebate event. Choose from the best brands at our guaranteed unbeatable price. Then save 7.5% more with our exclusive tax rebates. You'll save hundreds on lawn repairs, dishwashers, refrigerators, and kitchen suites. And trusted fast free delivery and haul away are still free. Plus, qualified buyers can choose 18 months interest-free financing. Guaranteed unbeatable appliance savings through March 25th with exclusive tax rebates from Warner Stellian.
Hello, humans. This is me, Ellie Krug, with Ellie 2.0 Radio on Monday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. Please tune in this week to hear about Carrie Ann Lucas, an idealist and disability rights champion who recently passed away at age 47. Then the big interview will be with Susan Robertson, another idealist working to make the Presbyterian Church more LGBTQ friendly. I've got a vision of a better world where everyone has a place at the table. Ellie 2.0 Radio, engaging and real on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. The show tonight is brought to you in part by Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation, and also by Bourbons and Bows, a great hair salon on 13th and University in Northeast Minneapolis. We're back talking with Bill Sullivan, roadie for The Replacements, author of Lemon Jail. We started talking about the last Replacements book that was released by Bob Mayer called Trouble Boys, The True Story of the Replacements. What do you think that was? Because Mayer, I remember actually when Bob Mayer came to write into town to write, doing his research for Trouble Boys, and actually Monty Wilkes introduced him to me at the 400. This must have been 5-6 years ago, I guess, when he started it.
He was stalking me at the 400. I was on tour.
Was he?
He was there every day trying to, in case I came back from tours. I'm just saying that when I tell people my stories and then they rewrite them into the subtext of their book or their theories, they lose a little bit of what I think they are.
Right.
These are oral stories. Like I'm not. The whole oral craze for books right now.
Right.
These are oral stories. All my stories have been honed by, like I wrote the book, I'd be just, like I said, I'd be sitting at the bar and the bartender would say something and I'd remember
right
a story and I'd tell him the story, and if I got a reaction out of him that I liked, I'd pull out the iPhone,
right.
I'd write the story and I'd send it to my editor.
Yeah.
And I'd say, let's work this into something, and I think this is something, and he'd be like, God damn right, this is something. Yeah. My editor was young, so I went in when I first in.
It was all myth to him and legend, right?
When I gave him like the first draft or whatever, and he after he read it, and I went to his office, and he goes, man, this book is gonna rip. And I was like, that's good, right?
Right. Bill, I guess I need to ask you, where'd you get the title from?
I get the Lemon Jail, yes. First of all, that title, Tom Surwitz, the great Minneapolis music writer.
Yeah.
Droll mother.
Yeah.
He said, I heard you want to write a book. And I was like, yeah. I go, yeah. He goes, what are you going to call it? I go, Lemon Jail. He goes, that's the greatest title I ever heard. So I couldn't,
Right, there you go.
I couldn't change it.
Yeah, predestined.
Yeah, but it comes from, you buy a crappy vehicle, it's a lemon. We were confined in basically a crappy vehicle for long periods of time.
The van.
Against
the
our will,
band
which was
van.
the band van, yeah. That the band called Bert, really. It had a name. How people name their vehicles.
Right.
They like to do that. And they called it Bert, which was also their alter ego of a band that was called Bert, and they'd all wear these T-shirts that said Bert, and they wrote Bert on the side of the van, and then they'd pull into town, and we'd go to a diner or whatever, and they'd say, you guys a band? They go, yeah, we're Bert.
And burnt.
Yeah. And so in Westerberg, we were in like one of those interminable traffic jams like you would know of, and hot, trying to get from New York to Philly, late for the gig or whatever, and you're just sitting there, and the thermostat's going to blow. That's always the thermostat.
Yeah, right.
Pull that thermostat out, you'll make it for at least another couple days, Thanks. Paul used to say call him One-Arm Scotty. All the mechanics on the road, they always like, well, I can't fix that, but if you go see One-Arm Scotty down the street, there's always some guy.
Which would be a great name for a band, too.
Right. And we actually had a guy in Canada with one arm fix our, what's that belt?
Right. I know what you're talking about.
It blew out, right? And this guy, it was amazing. He put the van up on the lift, and he took like a crowbars and he cranked that alternator over or whatever.
Right.
And then he stuck the thing under his chin like a violin player, and he grabbed that belt and he put that thing on and he tightened it up. It was
amazing.
And I was like, Paul wasn't there, and I was like, Paul would love this. There really is a One-Arm Scotty that'll fix your van. It's like, yeah, he was the one. It's Paul's line. I stole it from Paul.
Yeah.
He wrote it he used to graffiti the van, and the photo on the back of the Let It Be album, that's the photo I took of the inside of the van with the graffiti on it, which I wanted it to be I wanted to make my own postcards at that time.
Mm-hmm.
This is that was my social media.
Right.
And so I would buy weird postcards and send them to people. And then I started to want to make my own. And so I said, well, I need a view of the road. So I took a picture of the wall of the van, because that was my view of America.
Right.
The wall of the van. But he took out a pen and he wrote on the van door, Lemon Jail. I just thought that was so funny, man. Because we were just in this van that you're in this traffic jam, and you don't know if this van is going to get you to exit 9, let alone Philadelphia.
Right, right. Well, then there was the great story in the book where you ran out of gas, you couldn't make the U-turn, so you had to go get some gas, but you had to cut through a bad neighborhood, and then you ended up, so you got the gas, you got the can, and then the guy that picked you up knew the neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Tell that story. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it was, Westerberg used to just, like, Westerberg, if he didn't like the tape you were playing or whatever, he would pop it out and just throw it out the window. Right? So I had this Tom Waits tape. I mean, we used to make those mixtapes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We'd put everything. So I had this Tom Waits mixtape of all my favorite Tom Waits. And I mean, I'd seen Tom Waits. He was one of the first concerts I ever saw as a kid. You know, so everybody was asleep. And Westerberg never slept. Never slept.
Right.
Just sat there.
Right.
Next to you, you know. Never slept. And
didn't eat much either.
No, didn't eat much.
Yeah.
You know,
Coke and cigarettes.
Fingernails and cigarettes.
Yeah.
That was his dinner. Yeah. Yeah, he'd drink Coca-Cola and a coffee. He'd have a Coca-Cola and a coffee and a water and he ate fluids and then sit there with a cigarette, and that was like breakfast. It's like, we were young. I mean,
yeah.
But
tell us about the one thing in Mara's book, and you get a feel for it. You don't psychoanalyze the band.
Yeah, I don't come to conclusions. That's my thing. Is I have no conclusion. Everybody's got a thesis of what happened here.
Right.
I don't have that. I'm just saying what I saw. I got no conclusions about why they did or didn't, or
like fear of success, or
I don't have any conclusions. I know everybody wants to get to that conclusion.
Right.
I can't help.
Bill, this was it's really a pleasurable chat with you. It's so good seeing you again. I wish you the best of luck on your book.
Thank you.
Yeah, you should definitely, man. You should hit all those places the Replacements played and find a record store, a bookshop, or a bar.
Yeah, I'll see.
And tell your story, sell some books.
If someone invites me, I'd be honored to do it. The world owes me nothing, and I deserve whatever it gives me. And I mean, the U of M, this whole thing, this experience with these people have changed me. The way I appreciate life and everything, it's a weird thing, man. You know all your life from creating, but
Well, it's really a great piece of work. It's honest, and you don't get a lot of that in this world anymore. Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This show is produced by Paul Metza, engineered by Paul Sowie. We'd like to thank our guest, Bill Sullivan, author of Lemon Jail, On the Road with the Replacements. And I'd like to remind you, like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.